Hello and welcome back to World 360. Are India and the US cooking up a counter to Chinese influence in the Middle East? What did the foreign ministers of China, Pakistan and Taliban-ruled Afghanistan talk about in Islamabad? And who are the top 3 militants that Israel killed in Gaza? We cover this and more in today's episode. So first up, what's India and the US up to in the Middle East? But before we get into it, we have to zoom out for a minute because the US and India seem to have stepped up engagement this year on a lot of fronts, be it geopolitically and also with enhancing areas of the bilateral relationship itself. For starters, the Indian Foreign Secretary is scheduled to visit the US this month and PM Modi will visit Washington later this year. Also, the Quad Summit, which will be held in Australia, will take place later this month, where PM Modi and Joe Biden are expected to meet. And all of this seems to be taking place amid China's growing role in the Middle East, where US influence is waning ever since it pulled troops out of Afghanistan. In a recent episode, actually, we explained to you how China helped broker a peace deal between long-time regional foes, Saudi Arabia and Iran, which seems to have elevated Beijing's stature in the Middle East. Keeping this in mind, let's now look at the very interesting meeting that took place between the National Security Advisors of India, US, the UAE, and as well as Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. According to a report by Axios, the officials as well as the Crown Prince were expected to discuss a major joint infrastructure project to connect Gulf and Arab countries via a network of railways that would also be connected to India. A project like this would be a major counter to China's Belt and Road vision. But according to this Axios report, the idea to connect the Gulf and Arab states with India isn't new. It was first floated during talks that were held over the last 18 months in another forum called I2U2, a grouping of India, Israel, the UAE and the US. Now, India, UAE and Saudi Arabia have pretty much kept mum about this meeting between the NSAs, but the US did release a statement about it. In it, it mentions that the officials from the 4 countries share a vision of a more secure and prosperous Middle East region interconnected with India and the world. Now, another important aspect is the talks held between US NSA Jake Sullivan and Ajit Doval on the sidelines of the meeting. Keep in mind that this is the first meeting between the two after they launched the India-US ICET, or the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technology, which was seen as a major breakthrough in the bilateral relationship between US and India. Also, China's role in brokering peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran was clearly on Ajit Doval's mind because he made a pit stop in Iran before arriving in Saudi Arabia. Iran, which has for years been isolated on the world stage with Western sanctions and frictions with neighbors in the Middle East, is now pushing to elevate its position in international politics. For example, it's pushing to be a permanent member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, a multilateral platform that India is currently chairing. For our second topic, we're looking at another interesting meeting that took place in Islamabad between the Pakistani foreign minister, his Chinese counterpart, and the Taliban regime's appointed foreign minister on Monday. Now, this was a major trilateral because China and Pakistan sought to provide legitimacy to the Taliban government by hosting its appointed foreign minister, Malawi Amir Khan Muttaqi. Now, Muttaqi is a controversial leader who has long been subjected to a travel ban, asset freeze and arms embargo under UN Security Council sanctions. But incidentally, he was granted a travel ban exemption by the UN Security Council earlier this month, allowing him to travel to Pakistan. At this meeting in Islamabad, regional connectivity was also a key topic of discussion, primarily expansion of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or the CPEC, all the way to Afghanistan. And there was also a pledge by the 3 countries to boost trade through the Gwadar port. So what are the major takeaways from the joint statement issued by the 3 foreign ministers? First off, women's rights and the issue of refugees featured right at the end of the joint statement, while issues like tackling terrorism and calling for an end to Western sanctions on Taliban leaders appeared right on top. Tackling organized crime and drug smuggling in the region was a major factor in this document, which comes just days after Uzbekistan seized a drug shipment worth $70 million near the Afghanistan border. Interestingly, the joint statement mentions the TTP, or the Pakistan Taliban, which has proved to be a security nightmare for Pakistan in recent months. Pay attention to this line. The three sides stressed on the need of not allowing any individual, group or party, including the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or the TTP, the Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement, the ETIM, etc., to use their territories to harm and threaten regional security and interests. And most importantly, what appears to be an attempt once again to legitimize the Taliban government, the joint statement pledged to refrain from intervening in Afghanistan's internal affairs. There was a lot of sections that talked about the need to revive Afghanistan's economy, which has been crippled by Western sanctions against Taliban leaders. Since last year, Pakistan has been advocating for sanctions against Afghanistan to be eased. For our last topic, we're looking at 3 militants in Gaza who Israel claims it has killed in air raids on Tuesday. You may have heard that the Israeli foreign minister had cut short his trip to India because of the security situation back home. This is because Israel is preparing for a response from Islamic Jihad militants after its air raid killed 3 of them, as well as 10 others in Gaza. In fact, some reports say children were killed in this airstrike as well. Now, tensions are high because Islamic Jihad spokesperson Tariq Silmi has said all options and scenarios are open to how it will respond to the Israeli airstrike. Let's assess who these 3 militants are, all of whom belong to the Islamic Jihad movement in Palestine. Now, before we go any further, it's important to understand that the Islamic Jihad movement is viewed by Israel as an Iranian proxy that wants to destroy the state of Israel. It has been designated as a terrorist group by the US, Israel, and the EU. The Islamic Jihad movement is the second most important militant group in Gaza after Hamas. Now, on Tuesday morning, Israel announced it killed 3 commanders of this terror group, Jahid Ahnam, Tariq Az-Aldin, and Khalil Bahtini. Jahid Ahnam was the Secretary General of the group's military council. The 62-year-old resided in Rafah. He previously served in key positions, including coordinating weapons and money transfers between Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. Tariq Az-Aldin was a senior leader of the Islamic Jihad movement and directed terror operations in Judea and Samaria from Gaza. The 49-year-old was originally from Arabe in Samaria. Khalil Bahtini was a senior operational officer and commander of the Northern Gaza Division. The 44-year-old lived in Gaza City and was a senior member of the armed wing of the Islamic Jihad movement. Israel accused him of being behind a rocket launch directed at an election rally of Prime Minister Netanyahu in December 2019. Bahtini was also a member of the terrorist group's military council and had a direct line of contact with senior members of the Islamic Jihad's political bureau. Thank you so much for watching. This is Pia Krishnankuti for The Print.